I'm a fan of Rammstein, and getting invited to do something with them, performing one of my songs, this is amazing. So I got to rehearse it, and it sounded, I almost wanted to fire my own band because it sounded so great. Berlin is, if I had to name cities that have inspired me in my life, I live in Hollywood, and that's an inspiration, but not necessarily a positive one or a negative one. And Berlin would be the other one because it's the core and the center of what I identify with when it comes to art and the creation of the whole revolt against people who try to change or conform or decide what art's supposed to be. You know, it's been a birthplace for my career as a painter. I think I can credit Berlin as definitely the city that embraced me first as far as a painter, and also was a place that has made me always happy to come and perform as a musician. And now making a new record where I'm so enthused about making music in the same way that I did when I first picked up a microphone. I feel like, because Berlin to me represents the birthplace of expressionism, and I was someone who did not have any experience in singing, and I did not have any experience in painting when I picked up a paintbrush. But if you give me a pencil, I have a choice. I can write lyrics, or I can draw a picture, or I can stab you with it, you know. When I went to make this record, I moved into a place that was completely, almost like this room, in a sense where it was very simple. I put all of my belongings in storage except for my films and my books and things that would inspire me. And I had my paints, my paintbrushes, and I had my musical instruments and my microphone and recording devices and my cameras. And I wanted to create sort of a playground where I can have friends in my band and just people to collaborate with. So over the past 2 years, whilst making this record, I also got to interact with a lot of people that I'm huge fans of, whether it be actors or directors, musicians, and I always wanted to have a place people could come, and the curtains are blacked out, there's no clocks, so you walk into a place where the rest of the world does not exist anymore. It became a real creative world where I got so inspired that I just wanted to keep making things and making things. And this record, I think, is a great example of me realizing that, first of all, I have to have the confidence and ambition and determination that I did when I started, to simply realize that it would be arrogant or ignorant to think I could exist on the idea that I wrote beautiful people, so I'm entitled to do whatever I want, or that people had already heard the song. Some people may have not even heard it that I meet. Some people may hate it that I meet. I wanted to make a record that if I say, hello, I'm Manson, you want to hear a song? If they say no, then I say, fine, we'll watch a movie. Or I say, do you want to hear a song? They say yes. But I'll be honest, I've never heard any of your music, or I hate your music. And I made songs that simply were meant to, I guess, be a soundtrack for my personality. A lot of times I would bring people I don't know in to listen to it, or while I'm singing. And, you know, sometimes girls are a good barometer, because girls are, if you're a straight male you're trying to appeal to. And while I'm wearing lipstick, you know, I still like girls. And a lot of times I would offer them either tissues or a pair of clean panties, because I said, you are going to get wet in some way or another. When I was recording this record, when I did the vocals, a lot of times I had people in the room with me when I was singing. And, you know, admittedly, most of the times it was girls. But it wasn't the same as performing a concert. But when you're sitting in a room with headphones on and singing into a microphone and no one else, all they can hear is your naked voice, I know the word naked does bring to mind, and that may be true also, but when people can only hear your voice, it's a vulnerability that I've never allowed myself to have, but I found it to make me create a different attitude on the record. I think that what I did on this record, lyrically most of all, as a whole, is that I learned as a person to understand that relationships are all the same, whether it be your relationship to yourself, to your art, to a girl, to your friends, to your partners, your bandmates, to the world. They're all the same, and you have to hold up your half of it. And if you want to be in control of it, you have to decide where your role is. And when Twiggy and I wrote Beautiful People, we were in a Holiday Inn, and I think in North Carolina. I was on the floor going, and he's writing the riff, and we, and then, the song developed into something. But I think that limitations push for more creativity. And making this record, it had lots of ups and downs, but I can say that this is a record that I can't complain that I didn't enjoy making. And there was good and bad times, but I'll always look back on this record as having it being an experience that I'm proud of. And certain songs like Pistol Whipped, for example, on the album, there was no one else around, and there was a guitar there, and a drum machine there, and a pencil and paper and lyrics. So I took advantage of all that I had to work with and created the song. Writing the songs and producing the record, I just wanted Twiggy as a partner to do what he does best, so I just tried to create excitement for him, so he would go in and he would play guitar and write riffs like he does. And I tried to not tell him my ideas that I wanted. I tried to just excite him into doing what he would want to do. So later, when I had ideas, rather than asking him to do things the way I wanted him to do it, I would have an idea, and I didn't want to use someone else as a tool to express my ideas, so I had to learn how to play guitar better, and Twiggy was the one who taught me how to play guitar in the first place. So I played a lot of guitar on the record, but not because I was trying to, take over the role of guitar playing. It was just I needed to be able to accomplish what needed to be done, be creative as possible. I did not need to get to the conclusion that helped me make this record through religion or anything else other than me deciding that I wanted to be happy doing what I do. When you're making your choices based on what is passionate to you, what drives you, it sucks that sometimes you lose track of that. And it's your own fault for losing track of it. And I decided, yeah, it was my own fault. I lost track of it. I put myself in a place where I put all my belongings away. I didn't need them. I had my cat. I just had to make sure I made money to pay the rent and to provide cat food and to take care of my parents. And if it required me becoming a male prostitute, that's what I'd have to do. But I found that it was a lot easier just to make this album. Strangely enough, I've been friends with Johnny Depp for quite some time, and it does seem surreal because, he's such a great actor and, has now risen to such levels of fame that I think it even, knowing him personally, probably is very awkward because he is, in more ways than me, completely down to earth. He's not oblivious of it. He's very happy that what he does has given him the opportunity to do more things, and he's a great musician, and he and I both had bands that started in Florida. He had a band called The Kids. I had a band called Marilyn Manson Spooky Kids. And I met him, when I was 19, being an extra on 21 Jump Street. A background actor, as they call him. And so, on and off over the years, it's been quite some time we've known each other. And because of his schedule and my schedule, we keep in contact when we can. He asked me if I wanted to get together and do some music together, which we never did, and we've known each other all this time. And of course, he plays guitar and things like that. And I had not met his son Jack, lovely young man. It almost makes me want to have children, but it's probably not a good idea. But he's very, very intelligent. It's very exciting to see that you can pass on your problems and legacy of who you are into another smaller person that will grow up to be a problem later, such as you are. But Johnny wanted to do some songs, so we were playing together in his studio that he created, and his son was there and he was playing also. But Johnny played drums and I was playing guitar, and we wanted to do a cover of Carly Simon's You're So Vain because we thought it was amusing considering both of our lives. And so then it kept developing, and Johnny played drums, and Johnny played lead guitar. He played the solo on it, and he and I produced it together. And while I've done so many different covers, this one was so special because it was really fun to do, and his son was in the room, and I'm going to sing, and hopefully people will know this, and I hope that Jack, his son, knows this, that I'm going to sing. I promised that I would sing at his birthday, which is coming up, and because it was funny that if your dad is, it's like, it's obviously if your dad's Superman or something, you don't appreciate it as much, I guess. I don't have a kid, so I don't know, but his son was very excited that I was there as much as I was excited, even though Johnny's my friend for many years. I'm still in awe of him as an actor, as Johnny Depp, of course. It wouldn't even make you gay if you had sex with Johnny Depp because it's Johnny Depp. But the point was that his son was very excited. He was like, "Dad, you did a song with Marilyn Manson." And I was saying, I did a song with Johnny Depp. So it was fun. We respect and love each other. Our bromance is full force. And You're So Vain we made it a bonus track on the album because the album isn't really about anyone else. That's why the song becomes more amusing. And while it doesn't fit in the context of the scope of the actual record as a story, it definitely does fit because it's part of my life, and it's part of the fact that the record isn't about anything. So the song, I thought it ended up being perfect. So I hope people will like it, and we're gonna do more music together, he and I. In the same sense that you're saying, all the world is a stage, the bed is a poor man's opera, whatever quote you want to use. People, I think, sometimes limit the concept when they say, "Are you always like Marilyn Manson?" Or is this persona? What is that? There's a difference between being on stage in front of strangers that you don't know, and being in a room with someone like now that you're just meeting. So it's not as simple as on stage and off stage. There's different stages and everything. And I think that for me, it's more about the way I feel and what I say in my art or what I paint or what I sing, whatever I do. It doesn't turn on and off. Now when people say, is it all an act? Is it all a show? That's just like saying that anybody in a relationship, when you go to a bar, if you go to a bar, and is it all an act? I mean, people act differently when they meet other people, always. So life isn't as easily defined as a lot of people want to. That's why I started Marilyn Manson as an idea. So I felt that I wanted to say something. I just didn't know how, and now I realize even more than ever that if you try to figure out how am I supposed to say what I feel, and you just put it into a category, I mean, it's not satisfying enough. I can't simply just do music. I can't simply just paint, or I can't simply just do an interview. To me, all of it is enjoyable if it's me being in control of what I want to do and say. If I won't do anything now in any way unless it's something that I want to do. When you start compromising who you are because you've painted yourself into a corner. I've been fortunate enough to not have to do that, and getting off of my previous label made me feel like me again. What you create and then what happens to it after you create it are two different things. And you know, when your integrity or your personal feelings are on the line, it really kind of corrupts it, and it messes with your brain, because I started to accept, okay, well, I make a song, I make a video, I make whatever it is that I make, and I give it to a record label, and what happens to it, it becomes a product, and you have to accept that, and you have to realize that, you know, you can't take it personally. You have to be objective and look at yourself, that somehow, because you're part of pop culture, your soul suddenly becomes a product. I don't want to say that I compromised my art in the past, but I allowed myself to compromise what happened with my art, and I was so happy to get out of that situation. So to be on a new record with Cooking Vinyl, they simply probably heard the record maybe a week or two before you. They had enough faith in me to say, we believe in what you have, the potential you have in you. And that belief made me realize that I should believe more in my potential and not think that I have to try and be something other than just do what I do best. And so I feel like on this record, I'm just trying to do what I do best. I wasn't trying to live up to any expectations that I had for myself or anyone had, or think that I should be allowed to rest on my laurels, that people know that I've done this in the past. Maybe I have to outdo it, or maybe I have to do it differently, or maybe I have to do it again. I just listen to the music that makes me happy. A lot of the bands that I listened to when I started making music, Killing Joke and Joy Division and Bauhaus and Bowie and Prince even, and things that to me were, essentially I think that they were very inviting, enticing. I think that confusion and chaos are the only things that art can be. You know, if you create something that's confusing, and if you ever explain what you do, if you ever explain your art, rather than letting your art explain you as a person, and it cancels itself out. And I think that if you create something that's confusing, that essentially is irritating, or it is captivating, or at the very least, it's something that makes you have a question. What does that mean? What the fuck is that? Why is he doing that? What is it? Rather than you saying, oh, that's stupid because that is this, or that is boring because it's simply, when you can explain it simply, it doesn't inspire you to have any thoughts of your own. That's the role of as an artist. You're supposed to create a question mark, not answer questions. Even though I'm answering questions, I'm not going to explain what I do. I can explain why I do it, but if I explain what I do, it's the whole point of what I do is to explain who I am in the first place. And I think mystery and the element of not being able to be put into a simple square, or if you become defined at any point as one thing only, you cease to, the inertia, the existence of you don't transform anymore. It essentially makes you a dinosaur or a caveman, or it makes you an extinct animal. If you're not continually changing and evolving, and it doesn't always end up being in a good way. Sometimes you devolve and you have down points. But if you're not changing, if you just stay static, then you're this. I mean, having ups and downs is great, but I've never wanted to be this, and that's why I would never believe in psychiatry, or I don't think there's no need to be either sober or not sober, or Christian or not Christian, or satanic or Jewish, or whatever it is you want. I don't want to be defined as anything except me. People have said from my very first interview, do you think that your image will overshadow your music? And I said from the very beginning, well, I'm afraid my music would overshadow my image, because they were always one and the same. Now, if there's a band or someone, if you mentioned Lady Gaga, I've met her, and she has at least been kind enough to say that she has taken inspiration from me or from Bowie, and I always cite my inspirations. But just like a lot of famous great artists that I idolize that say, if you don't steal from something, it's not even art, because you have to take it from somewhere and you have to make it your own. I went to college, I dropped out, I quit because I thought I could learn more on my own. I do, however, enjoy the importance of other people's art that came before you. Because, first of all, if you don't know it, then you could be foolishly doing something that is asinine or repetitive or redundant. But if you're doing it on purpose because you have a genuine knowledge of it, then at least you're able to have the respect to know that you are creating and continuing the tradition of the people before you, Andy Warhol or Salvador Dali. You're doing what they wanted to inspire, what I want to inspire. I want people, if I inspire someone to start a band or something, or whatever they might want to do, shoot a school, whatever. It's it's not my fault. It's what I'm doing something. It would be like me blaming Shakespeare for what I do. Yes, in America especially, pop culture is so disposable, more so than it was the last time that I've spoken about it here in Germany. That it doesn't even add up to Andy Warhol's 15 minutes of fame definition. The idea of celebrity, when I started my band, celebrities were not the same as it was now, because the whole culture shifted, which I had to adapt to, because I had made a comment on that in the name Marilyn Manson. I was saying that we have a culture in America where you make a serial killer famous the same as you make an actress famous. And that had not really been the case so much as it is now, where you have all this reality television of people that are only famous because they're celebrities. They don't really do anything, but then it's a question of, well, is that an art form in itself? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Books are very good because they're thick and you can hurt someone with it. You can read it. You can use it for toilet paper. You can cut it open, hide a gun in it. There's lots of things you can do with books. Okay, you can burn them. So there's very useful. After I meet someone, I talk to them, and people realize, I'm a person just like anyone else. I just don't feel the need to be controlled by what other people think. And sometimes people say, I don't care what other people think. I think it's a stupid statement to say because as an artist, you should care about what people think. You're making something to create an emotion, to create some sort of excitement, to relate to other people. But if you're controlled or governed by what people think and it affects what you do, then you're not an artist anymore. I found a simple, different moral code in life. And it's a bit outlaw in like an old Western sort of sense, or in a Sons of Anarchy sort of motorcycle gang sort of sense, where you have to really remain loyal to what, people that you care about, and you should be willing to put everything on the line to protect that. At the same time, you don't want to ruin everything with stubbornness by risking it all by doing something that's irrational. And I learned from my mistakes, but I didn't have to come to a religious or sober enlightenment to get to this conclusion. I simply had to realize that I spent possibly the 4 or 5 years before making this new record, for metaphor, it was like every night having a wonderful dinner, and then going home every night and throwing up, and then accepting that and thinking, okay, this is what life's going to be, and not realizing that something was wrong. Like I was not, I won't stick with the food metaphor, but the idea that something was wrong, my body, my soul was rejecting things, but I had started to accept it. And when you accept things that you really don't want to accept, that it's really being passive, and it's not being confident. And I think confidence is the most important quality in anything that anyone respects. If you meet a person in life, or you see a painting, or you hear a song, if it's confident, I think that's the thing that people find most appealing. It's what I find most appealing. So I just had to, and it wasn't as simple as snapping my fingers, I had to realize that if I take everything away, I leave myself a blank palette, and I have to fill it full of something. It made it a lot more clear to me how my mistakes I have to accept as my mistakes. I can't blame them on anything else. If I want to change it, I just have to be better. I didn't want to be the person I used to be. I did not want to be the person I was at the time. So I needed to be the person that I knew I should be. And this record is me being the person that I knew I should be, which then becomes the question of born villain. Is it nature or nurture? How do you become who you are? But, it's both. It's an evolution. We all have regrets when we do something that's wrong, but it's what you do with that knowledge. And some people may sit around and blame others, or you may just not rise above it or not learn from your mistakes. And I've done all of the above, and I simply wanted to realize that I should make art, and when I'm done making it, it makes me happy. That's the point of making it. And it's not a humanitarian or some sort of martyr role that I play to make something, to make other people feel better about themselves. It's what became apparent, quite the opposite, that I realized that I had made, for a few years, art or music and people, just in general in life, because for me, you cannot be an artist and have that separate from your life. If they're not one and the same, then you're not living it. And it doesn't mean that I have to look this way all the time. It just means that you have to, if your art and your life are two different things, then it makes it much more difficult, and it's not as true, and it's not something you can believe in as much. But I realized that I had spent a large portion of the time before making this record being someone who maybe the people around me should not have had a reason to believe in. My closest friends, aside from the people who don't know me, is you make art and then you have to share it with strangers, and that's your way of communicating. But I had to realize that simple thing that I can't keep blaming everybody else if my life's going wrong. I just have to fix it, and I have to realize what is wrong, and I can't blame anyone but myself if you want to be in control. So what I had to just come to this simple conclusion is that I should make things that represent me and communicate with people, and I want what I do to make me feel good, and if I can do something that other people identify with, it's sort of the same, even if you're not a musician or an artist of any sort. It's what you do in a relationship, and that's what I had to break it down to, because I'm not necessarily the most normal person, obviously, but a lot of people don't understand that if you put out so much emotions, people don't understand that if you're angry, that means you're also very sensitive, obviously. But I wasn't angry at anything on this record. I just wanted to create excitement for whoever listened to it. And I think on the past few albums I tried to make people feel what I was feeling. And in most parts, that was not necessarily happy. It might have been angry or happy, but that's not the point of art. It should not to make people feel what you're feeling. It's make them feel something that they want to feel, because that's the kind of music that I grew up liking. Something that made me feel something exciting. I wasn't thinking about the person who wrote it, what they were going through. And I think that because I delved into a dark period of my life and I went into trying to express my personal feelings for the first time, it was a double-edged sword, where I went down a road where I was starting to make music that was, I feel, could have started becoming too self-indulgent, where I'm trying to make people feel what I'm going through. And what I was going through, no one should want to feel. I didn't want to feel it, so I just had to realize I just wanted to make a record that represented me, and it was basically fuck you, or fuck me, or fuck something, or just fuck things up, and that was the whole point of it. And that's why I started a band in the first place, to enjoy it and to have excitement and have something to live for.
Um, you said it's important for you what the audience how it reads that you do. Obviously, you said a very true thing that it's not possible anymore to shock somebody or so. It's just people will be irritated, or is it just something that comes along in the process?